If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy. Download and subscribe at BeBullish.com.
If we knew more about our sleep, what would we do differently? Would we go to bed at a consistent time or take steps to reduce interruptions to our sleep? With the all-new Sleep Score, Apple Watch measures your bedtime consistency, interruptions, and sleep duration. Then, every morning it combines these factors into an easy-to-understand score from 1 to 100. So you'll know how to take the quality of your sleep from good to excellent. Introducing the new Sleep Score on Apple Watch. iPhone 11 or later required.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back, folks. This is the More Money Show. Thank you so much for sharing some of your weekend to talk about the issues of the day. We talk about economics, we talk about finance, we talk about politics. I said at the outset of this show that I am disturbed and really quite anxious about what has happened to New York City and the fact that you had half of the voters who turned out on Tuesday voted for an overt socialist. He doesn't even deny it, that he has these ideas that the rich will pay all the taxes and that everything else is going to be free bus service, free housing, free food, grocery stores run by the government. This sounds a lot to me like what has happened in communist and socialist countries around the world. And when I heard about this and that he had actually been elected, because I really just didn't think it would possibly happen in 2025 in America, I thought nobody better to explain why this is so disturbed than Jennifer Grossman, who's been a friend of mine for 30 years. And is the CEO of the Atlas Society. You all hopefully know one of the most famous books ever written was Atlas Shrugged, and it tells us about why we need liberty and freedom if we want to be prosperous and free. And so, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining.
Well, it's great to be here, and I am equally distressed about what happened in New York. But I think we can also put it into context. I think there are other signs that when there is a viable, moderate alternative, we saw that in San Francisco with Mayor Lurie. We saw it in Minneapolis with the socialist candidate being defeated. Same, I think. By
the way, that one I don't think that one's done yet. I think they're still counting votes out there. But it looks like the non-socialist is going to win. But you never know with the way they count ballots.
Right. Yeah. But and then we shouldn't bury our heads in the sand. There's obviously is a real problem here. There's a problem that a significant percentage of young people have a favorable view, not only of socialism, but also of communism.
Right.
And I think that to an extent, this is sort of the luxury of not having a direct experience or having the fact that there was a Soviet Union and we were enemies, but it's also just more evidence of the kind of indoctrination that passes for public education. But I think it's not just a function of economic illiteracy and historical illiteracy. And I think that is a problem that those of us who are champions of capitalism and free markets too often make, that we just think, well, if we can only convince them with facts and logic, then we will win the day. I think that where Ayn Rand really captured this was in making the moral case for capitalism, conceding that even if in some kind of fantasy world, socialism actually did work and could do all of these things that Mamdani is promising, it still would be an immoral option because it is a system that is fundamentally incompatible with individual liberty and freedom, and incompatible with human nature itself.
So I couldn't agree more. And when I used to give lectures on college campuses, I don't do it as often as I used to, but probably over the years I've probably been to 75 to 100 universities around the country, talking about what you talk about as well, which is, the economic and moral case for free enterprise and liberty. And one of the things that I found so interesting, I'd love your response to this, is when I talk about, why socialism is a failure, I would get a lot of pushback from the students because, as you said, they've been indoctrinated with exactly the opposite message. And what I found fascinating was after I was done giving my lecture, the people who would come up to me would be the foreign students, the ones who grew up in Cuba or Guatemala, or the students who grew up in, some of them North Korea, some of them Russia, some of them Hungary. And they would say, I came to America to get away from socialism. And yet we've got these young kids that are 19, 20, 21 years old who think socialism is some road to paradise. And they say, believe me, it suffocates you.
It's easy to get stuck reaching for the same familiar fruits and vegetables, even when you know a colorful variety is key. Balance of Nature's fruits and veggie supplements don't replace fruits and vegetables, but it makes it easy to add more variety to what you already eat. With 31 ingredients that are whole fruits and vegetables, switching it up is easy because we've already taken care of the hard part. Go to balanceofnature.com and get a free fiber and spice supplement, plus 35% off your first set as a new preferred customer by using discount code POD.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm seeing the same thing. I mean, we are trying to get American young people, students, to our Gulf Schools, but I'm just deluged by the number of international students who, have a story to share because it's much closer and it's real to them. But I think that this is not just a case of illiteracy. This is also a case of bad values. So much of this is driven by envy, by resentment, by victimhood, by greed, properly understood as the desire for the unearned. And it's, again, interesting that here in America, there is someone who's actually measured what he calls the social envy coefficient. And in America, young people are much more envious, much more likely to look at the successful with resentment and with envy, and much more likely to do that than older generations. You go overseas, and that is flipped. Young people overseas have a much more positive view of. So,
this is important. Yeah, this is an important point. And by the way, in our hotline, and I think most of our listeners get that. I know you get it, Jennifer. But in yesterday's hotline, by the way, if you don't get the hotline, go to unleashprosperity.com and sign up. But we had a very, very, very famous quote from Thomas Sowell, who is one of the great economists. I think he's like 94 years old right now, but is still putting out great stuff. But here's what he said, and I'd like your reaction to this, Jennifer. And this is one of his most famous quotes. He said, quote, "Envy was once considered to be one of the 7 deadly sins before it became one of the most admired virtues under its new name, social justice."
Right. Well, and, Ayn Rand had an interesting take on envy. Most of us tend to think of it as, just wanting other people's stuff, right? Wanting redistribution. But she talked about it as hatred of the good for being good, saying that they do not want your fortune. They want you to lose it. They do not want your life. They want you to lose it. And so there's something very dark, very nihilistic, very evil about this kind of envious desire for a system which treats everybody the same. Well, actually, it doesn't treat everybody the same. A system that promises equality of outcomes necessarily treats people unequally. So I think it's important to fight back, and I think it's important to fight back in ways that young people understand and that they find engaging, and that's what we're trying to do at the Atlas.
Well, Jennifer, that's what you do every day, and that's why I admire you so much. And Atlas Society, which is amazing. You should go. It was at atlassociety.org. What is it? What's the website?
Yep. atlassociety.org. Find us on all of the socials.
Well, there's so much more I wanted to talk to you about this afternoon, and we didn't fill in a lot of it, but this has been a great education for me and our listeners. Jennifer, thanks. And can you come on sometime in the next few weeks and we can continue this conversation?
Absolutely. I always love talking to you, Steve.
Thank you, Jennifer. We'll be right back, folks. This is the More Money Show.
Thanks for listening to More Money with Steve Moore. You can hear More Money with Steve Moore Saturday afternoons at 1. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy.
Download and subscribe
at BeBullish.com.